Hey, converted man here. Why is it that theists and apologists seem to not know informal logic? I was looking for a video to do something with, and it's nothing new under the sun. Same old, same old. There's Muslims saying that Allah's God, there's Christians saying that Yahweh is God. And everyone thinks that they have an argument that blows away the atheists. And I just looked at a really bad, broken argument. I thought, maybe there's something there. Maybe I could do something about that. And the argument, uh, the argument was just, oh goodness, it was painful. So it went like, let me see where I wrote it down. If the property of rationality exists, then God must exist. Property of rationality exists, therefore God exists. Of course, you could just say the property of rationality exists, then God doesn't exist. Property of rationality exists, therefore God doesn't exist. You could do the same thing. Doesn't work. Why? Well, P1 is not justified. There's no association causation links there. There's equivocation. There's just jumps of metaphysical assumptions. It's just unsupported. It's a non sequitur. It would need its own argument. It doesn't, the vagueness of property of rationality that doesn't really mean anything. There's a potentially implied false dichotomy. It's either God or there's no rationality. It's just precept with new words, different words added. That's it. And I'm like, why? And on a different video I posted, precept nonsense to this one person that said, or maybe the same video, I don't know. That God is the grounding of logic. I'm like, no, God, no. This is precept nonsense. They're like, it's logic. I'm like, no, you haven't even read an informal logic book, have you? You have no idea what logic even is. You know the word, but that's it. Why? Why is this? And there was that theist I talked to a while back who had that metaphor of the robot or android or whatever it was, and he understood formal logic, but not informal logic. I was like, what's up with this? How are you guys using these arguments without understanding the basis of how to argue in the first place? Some people know terms, they know logical fallacies, they know some of the terms, but they haven't actually studied informal logic. They haven't cracked open a book, they haven't read it, they haven't understood it, and maybe they don't want to. I think that emotions and feeling come into play. The fact that people are used to certain beliefs has some tie in there, and that some people just think that this is the argument that proves God, even though it doesn't. And I think the video was like, this argument destroys atheism. I'm like, no, you would just need proof of God. Then I wouldn't need to be an atheist anymore. A proof of any God or gods. That not an argument. You just need proof. You can't. And this is I think that this might be the key. And my methodology for deciding if I accept something or not has always been the same, empirical evidence, repeatable test, or a valid and sound argument. And that last one, I just don't know if it's possible to have a sound argument unless you have empirical evidence or repeatable test. There wouldn't be anything to base it in or on or of. So there's nothing to it. There was a theist talking to an atheist lately, and they said, now I don't know if they were joking or not, who knows, but they said, that when I asked them, how do you know what God is in the first place, and what method did you use to get to that conclusion, they said that God is the boss that made everything, and they got to that conclusion by looking around at stuff. and it can't just be by chance. Well, it isn't just by chance because there's a mechanism there, a filtering mechanism. So it's not pure chance, which, again, many theists just get wrong about evolution, and they seem to think it's God or evolution, and you can't do both or something like that. And it's just a lack of understanding of reality at some level. For many, not all, of course. I'd say that this is a bell curve that I've heard and seen. The method of just look around, look at the trees, is not a method, because I look around and I don't see any evidence of God at all. And you would have to draw the conclusion that if you want to say there's a designer, that's a bad designer, it's a bad boss. And then, but that's okay, because the theist has other reasons why they think God did it in this way, and all these reasons are beliefs stacked upon beliefs. And so I think that the why in this is that they don't know informal logic and don't care to know it, because if they did learn it, it would negate to some degree their faith, perhaps, or they were, or just pure ignorance. And I think back to Ontangelo, who I finally, gave up on and divorced, and that he simply refused to learn informal logic, and no real reason, just, I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do it. I'm not going to do it to please you or whatever. And it's like, yeah, because you want to remain ignorant. And that's it. You just want to remain ignorant. You don't want to learn anything new. You don't want to understand these arguments, because with understanding comes knowledge. Now, this funny thing about rationality. Rationality exists as a byproduct of human brains, and what is or isn't rational and what the word even means is all based on your own, your various different things. Nerdy Rodent's comment got me off track here. You're not my real dad. You can't tell me what to do. What? Well, I didn't claim to be your dad, so okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I at the end of the day, you don't know why anyone does or doesn't know any given thing, right? It's speculation. This is all speculation. It's just frustrating, because I want to see some progress, and it feels like there's no forward momentum. It's like, what's the point? You kind of get down, like, I'm just talking to people that don't believe. I'm not getting, and then well, I screwed myself over, because I had an interview with this Christian, and just I just thought it was a different day, I guess, or something. It's just like, the day came and went, and I was like, oh, how did I miss that? It was right there. Like, how did I? And I said, sorry. And they didn't say anything back. And it's like, okay, well, I screwed that up, So I felt bad about that. Yeah, what happened with the appearance for that apologist? I just kind of basically forgot, I guess. I mean, I had it on my calendar. I had the time, and my sleep schedule has been completely screwed up lately. So I think that I might have actually just fallen asleep that night, and completely, for not necessarily forgot, because I knew it was a thing. I was like, oh, I was excited about it. I had it, I was like, Okay, that's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. You know, I was like, and it's like, oh, it's Wednesday. Wait, what happened to Tuesday? You know. So when you're not sleeping right, stuff like that can happen where you just miss days or miss time, memories affected, and all this bad stuff. So, uh, it sucks, and then that's it. You get one shot sometimes with people, and then that's it. Um, and it's understandable. I mean, why give somebody, another try, if they stand you up from your perspective? It's like, it's funny though. Christians are supposed to be forgiving, but whatever. They don't have to be. But anyways, going back to the topic at hand of why they don't seem to know informal logic. And then again, why do lots of people not seem to know it? Not just theists, but like lots of people don't know it. So, and I did my try at teaching it a while back, and didn't seem like there was that many views. There was no comments, so I have no idea if anyone got anything from it at all. And when that happens, of course you're going to feel like, well, what's the point? I looked at my numbers of views and stuff, and I try to use that as a metric of deciding what to do. I did the metaphysics of short circuit. I was going to do more, but I was like, well, there's only a couple comments. There's a lot of views, but only a couple comments. So it's like, yeah, maybe the next part would get a lot of views too, but it's like, I want the comments. So maybe I'm looking at the, wanting the wrong thing. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how to YouTube right. Paul of sleepers are ahead of the time. What? Okay. But at any rate, so yeah, I'm kind of all over the place as normal. But I was just trying to think of why is this a thing? How is it that theists, apologists, whatever, how is it they buy into precept? That's such a precept is so annoying. Oh, without God, you can't have fill in the blank. Logic, morals, rationality, insert whatever here. It's like, how do you know that? How do you know that without God you couldn't have X, Y, and Z? How do you know what God is? What is God? The big boss of the universe. How do you know that? I looked around. I looked at the trees. That's not good enough. But that is enough for some people. How did we humans invent this insane idea and believe in it? I don't. It's just weird and wacky. Indoctrination, yeah. Logic of lobsters, yes. LOL's logic of lobsters. Indoctrination is a part of it, yeah. Well, maybe all of it, maybe a lot of it. You're told when you're young that it's true. I was interacting with somebody, and they seem to get frustrated when they're talking about something, and I'm like, I look at them and they're like, well, let me guess, science explains it. Like, really frustrated. I'm like, why would you be upset that science I said, actually, yes, science does explain that. Like, why are you frustrated that that's the case? Because I want it to not be explained except by God? Is that it? Like, what's irritating you about that science explains it? And then in chat, I think it was BS's chat there was some bubblegum person, whatever, and they said that the reason why God can't be explored by science is science uses methodological what is it? Naturalistic methodology or whatever. And I'm like, no, and I said, no, I mean, well, yes, but no, that's not why they can't find God. They can't find God because God isn't there to find. There is no I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, yeah, maybe this whole materialism, naturalism thing is something that maybe I'm being too hesitant about embracing. It's like there isn't any evidence for any non-material, non-natural thing. It just you couldn't have evidence of that. There has to be something there for there to be something there. It's not even antimatter. It's non anything. You've defined it out of existence. Yeah, creationists don't realize their beliefs contradict science, or they do and they don't care. They just say, "Oh, the science is wrong." The final or the final experiment, where they went to Antarctica to debunk the flat Earth stuff. And TFE, of course. And took all this time. He's an American pastor, all this, and he got the some flat Earth people, and it goes into the beliefs, and then what I thought were they live streamed the Midnight Sun, which negates the flat Earth. But it's like, okay, well, what did they say? But what did the other flat earthers say? They've come up with their own conspiracies. They denied the results of the expedition, claiming that the footage was filmed in a dome studio or on a green screen. The participants are part of a larger conspiracy to promote the globe model. Satan created a fireball to act as a false sun, accusing Duffy of taking funds from his church to finance the expedition, which he's denied. Which even if he did, that doesn't prove that it's false. So I don't. So when you have a belief and you're used to this idea, it hurts your brain to challenge it, and so we don't. All of us humans do this. You might have a belief of some sort, and you're like, no, this is true. And or maybe you think it's false, and you're used to that, and you don't challenge it. You don't want to challenge it. Why would you? It's easy to do that. It's hard to learn science, informal logic, formal logic. These things don't come naturally to many people, I would dare say. And, it's easier to just believe you have the answers than to accept the actual truth that we don't know yet. Maybe we will. I don't know. But of course, I suspect that whenever we do get that answer, they'll move the goalposts and just say, well, God did that. Yeah. No true Christians can agree on the definition of God, heaven, hell, biblical law, and much more. Yeah, Absolutely. And well, not only that, but you're like, well, how are you saved? And they're gonna have different ideas of that. I've told this story before, worth retelling perhaps. I went to a Pentecostal church, and I went to a church, First Church of Christ. The Pentecostals, these versions, said that you had to speak with the tongues, or you didn't have the Holy Spirit. And if you don't have the Holy Spirit, you're not really saved. Well, I couldn't do it. I was praying my brains out, and God didn't take over my voice. And then one guy said, "Oh, you kind of have to fake it at first." And I was like, "That, no, that doesn't, no, that's not real." Then. And then the First Church of Christ, the pastor was dedicated to the idea that baptism had to be completely immersed, and you had to say it a certain way, like you're baptized in the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. No, you're baptized in the name of Jesus. Whatever the version was, I don't remember, but it had to be said in a certain way. And so if you didn't do that, you didn't go to heaven. And that his dad, who was dead, was in hell. His dad was a Baptist preacher and didn't get baptized the right way, so he was in hell. I'm like, you really believe that? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, wow. And it made me realize that's not fair. Why would God, if these people are right, that means all the other Christians are screwed. Why would God do that? And then I realized, wait a minute, only about 33% of the world believes in Christianity. The rest is all screwed? That's not fair. And going back to Missing Mud, this idea she presented, one of many in a thing that I was listening to off and on again, was, here's this book that tells you that you've done X, Y, and Z wrong. You don't really need to have it to know that you did that. But now that you have it, you know that it's like, here's the law book. And so now you know that you've broken the law, even though you already knew that it was against the law. But now you know for sure. So now when you get accused in front of God, you have no excuse. And I'm like, yeah. The problem with that is everyone has a book that they think God wrote. Have you considered the lobsterist? So no, logic, and specifically informal logic, is a tool. It has a limitation to it. The limit is it can't give you new information. The usefulness of it is to decide whether you should look into the matter further or be skeptical of it. And so you can apply that and say, well, maybe there's a thing, God. I don't even know what that is. Okay, cool. Be nice to have evidence of it. I don't. And all I ever hear and see are bad arguments. But if people don't learn logic, they're not going to know that they're bad arguments. How do you convince people to learn? I don't know. Well, at any rate, I guess that's all the mussing I have for now. Sorry I don't have a video to, complain about. I guess I could cover the Jordan Peterson versus the atheist thing in full. That would be a long series. Yeah. Christians can't even agree on the gospel. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they can't. Yes. What do you mean by evidence? Very simple. The same sort of evidence that we have for everything else. All right? Look around. Look at the trees. When you look around, right, what do you see? Well, you probably see the room that you're in. Do you see God? Because I don't see God. I see wall, I see shelves, I see a television set, I see a computer, I see, my window. I don't see God. All right. So there's no, and then that's a problem. But then also there's no test to run on God. What is God in the first place? That's the question. What is God? And how do you know that God is that thing? What was your method that you used to arrive at the conclusion that God is X, Y, and Z? So if you don't have a method to tell us, how you know what God is, then I'm going to suspect that you have no idea what God is. You just think that you know. You believe that you know. God is a lobster. There's a book called The Lobsterist. It explains how God's a lobster. Have you read that book? Have you tried to refute that book? No. Okay, well, I guess then God's a lobster. Do you want evidence that God is a lobster? Well, what do you mean by evidence? I could do the same little trick. So what I know, Angel Villas, is I'm answering your question, and you don't respond to my answers. You're now doing another question. You're not giving me an answer to my question of how do you know what God is and what was your method to get to that conclusion. So that is not not an unfair question. What is God? How do you know that that is God? Very simple. This question is irrelevant. I don't have any belief about the origin of the universe. I have none. I don't know. There you go. And whatever my answer is or isn't has nothing to do with your lack of evidence for God. My standpoint is very simple. What is God, and how do you know that that is God? That's your burden. If you think there's a God, okay, cool. What is it? How do you know that that is what it is? Because I could claim anything is God. I can say lobsters are God. There's a book called The Lobsterist. You can read it. It's free. Or you can listen to Captive Desk, read it for you. It explains how God is a lobster. Yep. It's all there. If you haven't read it, then, I don't know what to tell you. So you're asking another question. You're not answering my question. Answer my question. Your questions, you already got the answer to one. How did we come about in your eyes? Doesn't matter. Whatever my answer is irrelevant to your burden of proof. All you have to do, and if you don't do it, then I know that you've got nothing. What is God, and how did you determine that that is God? That's it. Answer those two questions, or we're done. It's that simple. It's that simple. Because again, I can claim anything and everything as God. And how would you know? How would you determine that it is or isn't God? Have you read The Lobsterist? No, you haven't. I know you haven't. Because if you did read it, you would know it's true. I'll link to The Lobsterist just because. Why not? We both have the burden of proof. No, I want to challenge what you think based on what I think. Your burden of proof has not yet been fulfilled. You have not answered the question. What is God, and how do you know what God is? That's it. You're not answering that question. Dodge all you want. I'm waiting for the answer. Okay, so here's The Lobsterist. You can read it. See? I told you it was a book, Nice book. Explain how God's a lobster. And it has other stuff in there. And if you don't want to read it, you don't feel like reading it, here's a captive desk narrating it. Amazing. So yeah, you can listen to him read it, and it's great. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. And he proves God is a lobster in that video. And so yeah, and so there you go. God's a lobster. That's my claim. All right, and the proof is the Lobsterist, which you haven't read. So there you go. Until you read it and debunk the Lobsterist, I guess God's a lobster, because you haven't answered my question. So we all see that Angel doesn't care about informal logic, don't we? We all see that. We all see that they are not answering that simple question of how do you know, what is God? How do you know what God is? They will. Here we go. Finally, God is a God of the universe. What does that mean? God of the Christian Bible. He created all things that have never natural relation. To see that there are things created means a creator. Okay, so God is a God of the universe is not a definition of anything. God, the God of the Christian Bible, which version of what Christian Bible? Created all things. How do you know that? Have a natural revelation. What does that mean? That's not a methodology. To see that there are things that are created, which means a creator, which is circular reasoning. So you don't have a method, and your idea of what God is completely circular, illogical. So there you go. Learn informal logic. What do I believe? I don't have beliefs. I have knowledge about various things. Can you answer the origin of the universe? No, we don't know. I have no idea. What do I believe? Not much. Things that I think are true are based on empirical evidence, repeatable tests, and valid and sound argument. My beliefs have nothing to do with your burden of proof that you failed. No, you don't know who God is because he did not reveal himself to prophets. You have a belief that God revealed itself to prophets. You don't actually have any evidence that it did. Jay Dryers, I'm not interested in whoever that is. He also is not going to have any empirical evidence, repeatable test, or valid and sound argument for God. All God needs to do is say hi. Hi, everybody. God's not doing that. So God doesn't exist. There you go. Done. And you didn't refute the lobsters. You revealed that you don't understand informal logic. Why? Why do you not know informal logic? Can you answer that question? Now, that is a loaded question, by the way, because it assumes that you don't know informal logic. But based on everything that you've written, you don't. So why haven't you learned informal logic? No, it didn't. No, you don't know that it revealed to prophets, and you don't know Christ exists, and whatever Christ taught about God, who cares? How do you explain? It doesn't matter how I explain consciousness. My answers is irrelevant to your burden of proof. You are confused, and the way to become unconfused, Angel, is to learn informal logic and learn science, and you will understand the answers to some of these questions. You don't know Christ exists. You're a joke. Well, indeed, I am a joke, and also it's true. You don't know that Christ existed. You have a book that says it did. That's it. Wow, getting a lot of insanity here. Do I deny Christ as a historical figure in history? Christ in the Bible is a myth. If there was a person, Jesus, we don't know anything about him. Where does informal logic come from? Well, that assumes it comes from anything. If you learn informal logic, then you will understand where it comes from. So go learn informal logic. Come back when you've done so. I don't think I'll ever see you again, because the whole point of this stream is to ask this question: why don't you seem to know informal logic? And so far, all we've seen are people asking more and more questions and asserting things without any proof. And we're like waiting for people to answer the question. Yes, there is a debate about Christ existing, in the sense of what you mean by that. So this is a different thing that theists get wrong about the historical Jesus versus the mythological Jesus. First, because Jesus did magic, we have to think that part of the Bible isn't true. We have to think it's a myth. So that negates everything that Jesus did that's magical. That leaves very little historical Jesus. We don't know when he was born at all. Nobody's ever been able to construct a coherent timeline of Jesus's life and death, because we know where King Nero was, or we know not Nero, sorry, Pontius Pilate. We know where Pontius Pilate was, and so if you place him in the time where he would have been there to execute judgment on Jesus, and then work backwards from that to try to get his birth. People have attempted to do this and failed multiple times. When some historian says that Jesus is a historical figure, they don't mean the Jesus of the Bible. And the only people that claim that Jesus in the Bible exists as an actual person are people that are Catholic and Christian. Other historians do not make that claim. People like to say all historians agree, but they don't have a list of historians and what they actually say. There is more than enough room to doubt the biblical Jesus. If Jesus existed as a human, which I don't know that he did, he's nothing like what the Bible says, because the Bible is a made-up story made by humans that wanted to deify Jesus. They wanted to make Jesus into a god, and they wrote up stuff that made it seem like Jesus did X, Y, and Z. They just made up stories left and right. There you go. Look around. There you go. There you go. Look at the trees. Once again, proving people don't understand informal logic. Historians writing about Christ and Christians. Historians writing about Christ. If you're talking about Josephus, who had a large part of his thing was a fraud and forgery, and Tacitus, they wrote that people believed in Jesus. That's not writing about Christ. And they were far after Christ was already gone. In fact, all the biblical authors are late to the game as far as when Jesus would have actually been around. And well, not that we know who they are, by the way, but yes, all the writings that we have that are preserved at all are after the fact. 10, I think the shortest one is 5 years, maybe 10 years, something like that, which is, you don't even need that long of a time, by the way, to get a legendary status, because Joseph Smith made up a story and people believed him. So it's not hard to make up a story completely fabricated and have people believe you. So you think that the Bible is true, and therefore the Bible is true. You think that historians agree that Jesus existed, and you think that, but you haven't actually investigated if that's true or not. You're just saying things, but you haven't actually done the research. You haven't learned informal logic. We don't know why you haven't learned informal logic. All you're doing is asking questions and not responding to the problem that you don't know informal logic, so you don't know how wrong you are. The historians, and this is very simple, okay? Tacitus and Josephus, who also had a big giant forgery that's known, written, so we have to be skeptical about him. Both wrote that people believed in Jesus. People believed in Jupiter as a god. Does that make Jupiter a historical figure? No. Okay. I guarantee you that you have not done any research at all into your religion, its history, not even a little. I guarantee it. And you don't know anything about informal logic. I also guarantee that. So, um, did Jupiter come to Earth and start preaching? Who knows? Who cares? People believed in him, didn't they? So that's the thing. You guys have a belief. You don't have evidence. You don't have facts, and you don't have logic. I wish you guys would learn informal logic. I don't know why you don't know it. Keep doing God's work. I mean, I'm saying that you should doubt God because you don't have any evidence of it, but sure. There's no witnesses to that like Christ. Well, there's no witnesses to Christ at all. So, yeah, who cares? It's a story written by people. That's it. It's a story. It's made up. It's not real. It's like read The Lobsterist. Have you guys read I'm going to keep referring to The Lobsterist. Okay, now you're asking about formal logic. That assumes it comes from something. What's the origin of formal logic? Why not go learn it? Go learn it and find out yourself. Why should I give you that answer? Go find out yourself. Go educate yourself. Go learn it. Well, I would suggest starting with informal logic first. Formal logic's a lot more complicated. But seriously, go. It's not that hard. There's stuff online, So, let's see. Hold on. Let's see. All right, let's see if this will load. It's taking its while. Okay, here we go. Here's a link. It will download it automatically. Wow, that's a big link. Okay, that didn't fit in one link. Let me see if I can find a shorter link. Let's see. There we go. I think that there we go. This works. That's a better link. Okay, there you go. Read this book. Okay. Read this. You could also buy it, but I mean, well, this might be pretty hard to read. It's pretty small. But then the other link I gave, just type in PDF informal logic or pragmatic, even if you spell it long. The ResearchGate, that link was too big. That's the first link I tried to post, but it was a little bit too big. Oh wait, that worked. I don't know when that worked this time, but whatever. Yeah, that's too big of a link. It doesn't want to squeeze all that in. But yeah, there you go. Do that. Read that. Anyway, you want to be informed, help you out. Well, Angel, I can only tell you to learn informal logic. I mean, I can try to teach you informal logic. Do you want me to teach you informal logic? I can attempt to do so. But I don't know. I mean, you seem like genuine. There are other people in here. I don't know about them, but you know. Uh, I've never heard of informal logic as a thing. Yeah, well, that's a problem, isn't it? Where it comes from? Well, then do the research. Why do you want me to tell you that? Why not go do it yours? Why not go figure it out? Find out. Look it up. Read. Study. Blaster, you're not supposed to talk. Tell them. Don't tell them stuff. Let them go find it. This is the whole point. I want to see if they can do it. Yeah, I mean, how hard is it to do this? Oh, look what I put in. Here you go. Wow, that was that. The AI overview. Ignore that. I mean, whatever. Here you go. There's some stuff. Here's Wikipedia. There's Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. You know. Oh, there you go. That's a start. It's there. I mean, my attempt at it. I mean, goodness gracious, I don't know that I did that well, but let's see if I can find my. I don't know if I made a playlist or not, but whatever. Goodness gracious, go on that. Okay, so I was using the lobster version of me. I should change my thing. Let's be that. Yeah, I want to be that again. I haven't been that in a while. All right. Anyways, the Bible. I don't believe in Bible because magic. Just beyond stupid. Why? I don't believe in magic, and so also I don't believe in the Bible anymore. I used to, but then you know what I did? I actually researched the thing. And I found out there was nothing to support it. And I learned informal logic, and there you go. That's it. Of course, you could, if you're really interested in my entire journey, guess it's time to hawk my book. I don't, that, Angel, I don't know what the origin of the universe is. No idea. Have zero idea about it. The best I could do there is say cosmology explores that question, and I'm satisfied with most of cosmology being unsettled on the answer to such a question. The current model that it's widely accepted is the expansion of the universe cosmology, also called Big Bang cosmology. There's other cosmologies that are interesting to look into. World Science Festival has a number of videos on it. Let's see if I can find them. There's also a show called Cosmos you could watch. Let's see if this is. Yeah, here's the channel. Let me get the channel here. This is World Science Festival. They have a bunch of videos on a wide variety of topics. Talking about quantum physics, talking to about dark matter, space and time, black holes, cosmic origins, AI, etc. So they've got people that really understand their stuff talking about stuff there that's very interesting to listen to. And I listen to not all of it, but I listen to a lot of it. And I'll tell you, I don't understand everything they say. But then when I don't, what I do is I look up what they say and I go, okay, Let me see if I can understand that a bit better. Because I'm interested in learning and understanding. And if you truly are interested in learning and understanding the world around you, the best way to do that is science. And subservient to science is logic to some degree, because logic only can analyze argumentations for fallacies or lack thereof. It's possible. Yeah, me not knowing the origin of the universe or life or whatever else doesn't mean that there's a God. Our answer to any given question is irrelevant to whether or not there's proof that there's a God. Because God, whatever God is, now he said God was the God of the Bible. I don't know which version of which Christian Bible, because the Judeo-Christian Bible has several versions now and several different ideas about those different versions. Some people are King James onlyist people. Some people are Pentecostal. Some people are First Church of Christ. Some people are Catholics. So who knows? I don't know, because the Catholic Church says their way is the best way. So if they're right, I guess we should all be Catholic. Although I'm not sure I could be Catholic given what they did with the whole, hiding the pedophile thing. But, if they're right, I mean, I guess you'd have to forgive them of doing that. They're still doing it probably, but, whatever. They could still be right about God. The fact that they're doing evil, vile things doesn't make them wrong. It just makes them evil and vile, If theists want to claim that everybody has some inherent responsibility or obligation, every analysis will throw the burden of purpose on them to demonstrate that. Yeah, well, yeah, anybody that makes a claim has the burden of proof. Now, my claim, in fact, in this video where I've now had a bunch of people join the chat, which is great. My question is, why do theists/apologists seem to not know informal logic? I'm asking a question. I'm not making a claim. I'm saying this seems to be true, that theists and or apologists don't know informal logic, or it seems like they don't know it. And throughout my mussing of this, what we've seen from chat is repeated illogical statements, and we've also seen nobody answer that they know what informal logic is, and or why they didn't learn informal logic, and or if they did learn informal logic, then that negates my whole thing. I'd be like, well, okay, well, there's at least one. I know one theist that knows informal logic. That's my brother. Why does he know that? Because he read it because of me. He was like, I want to understand what you're going on about. So he read the book and he understood the book, So, at any rate, can science prove formal logic? No. That's not how that works. Because formal logic isn't that sort of thing. What proves formal logic is formal logic. It's kind of weird. It's like, can science prove math? No, math proves math. But again, your questions, you could go do the research. Why haven't you? That's my new question is why haven't you looked into any of this? You keep asking me questions. Why are you remaining ignorant? Yeah. Right. There you go. That Why haven't you studied it? You keep asking me all these questions like, yeah, why haven't you studied it? That's the only question. Yeah. You didn't know about it. You didn't care about it. You don't have time. You don't have energy. You don't have interest. You're too busy listening to me ramble on. Yes. Yes, Jay. Yes. So it's. I mean, formal logic is a little bit harder for me to talk about than informal logic because I honestly am still trying to learn it, which I really need to get back to my book and really read that. But the formulas are true because they can't not be true. It's kind of an axiom in a way, but yeah, it's based upon observation of how things work and how the universe seems to work to us. And I suppose we might be wrong and have to change it, but so far it's held up pretty well. So it's kind of like mathematics in that way. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, Blaster Master? I'm going to, because this has kind of turned into a different thing rather than what I started about, I'm going to put the thing in here and see if anyone wants to join in. Because I don't trust anybody, I might not show your icon because sometimes people like to show inappropriate videos. So it probably will just be my icon. But if you join in, you're welcome to speak for a while at any rate. And we'll see if that goes anywhere. Yeah, the Gospel of John. I mean, I don't want to get into biblical history. I don't really care about it anymore. But nobody knows who wrote it. I don't care. It could have been John. It doesn't matter. It's made up. Who cares? These people, I don't even, honestly, I don't even know if they existed. Maybe a couple of the apostles did, maybe, but it's like, I just don't care. You got to step back from the whole Bible thing, okay? Let's just step back from all that for a moment. Okay. You're God. Now, I don't know what God is, but I'm going to go with some basic general concepts of God here. You can do anything. Okay, cool. And I don't know, you're bored, so you make the universe and you make people on a planet at some point because again, you're bored, I don't know. And you want to interact with them. Okay. So you interact with them. And, everything's fine and hunky-dory because, well, you're perfect, apparently. You can't do anything wrong. And that's the entire story, is because everything is perfect, everything stays perfect. And there you go. God just interacts with humanity forever. Sounds cool, but that's not how but that's not what's happening. So when you're making a story up, you have to make the story at least seem to fit reality to some degree. Otherwise, nobody's going to believe the story. So you say, well, something went wrong and with God's perfect plan. Well, then it's not a perfect plan. Well, I mean, it's not that his plan was imperfect, see, but God, actually, no, the plan is perfect, but so something didn't go wrong, something actually went right, and it seems like it went wrong, but that's part of God's perfect plan. And the thing that went wrong is actually, again, it's not wrong, it's actually right, but people did a thing that God didn't want them to do. Also, God didn't tell them what was right or wrong. because they didn't know. And also there was a talking serpent / naga / what's her name? I always forget the name. Whatever. Lilith was there, and she tricked Eve into eating this thing that God didn't want them to eat. But actually God did want them to eat it, because if they didn't eat it, then his plan would fail. But also they have free will. But also that really upset God. And then God decided to bugger off and not talk to humans directly in the way that he did Adam and Eve, because they sinned, and that really upset God. Even though God set up for them to upset God, God knew that that's what was going to happen, but did it anyways because that makes sense. Okay, then then God sometimes talks to people through dreams and visions in their head, or maybe out loud sometimes. And then sometimes God will show them signs that it's really God. But also God has allowed demons and devils to also have power to show signs to confuse people. Okay, and, because that makes sense. Yeah, sure. And anyway, so Adam and Eve, they have 2 kids, but one of the kids kills the other kid. Then suddenly that kid who was cursed has a wife. We don't know where she came from or her name, but it doesn't matter. He has more kids. So everybody's a kid of incest for forever. And then eventually God gets really tired of everyone sinning, and so he kills everybody except for one small family. So back to incest again. And then they make the world again. And then after they do that, eventually a whole bunch of stuff happens that nobody really reads through because it's pretty boring. I don't know, Ruth, whatever. She loves God. Who cares? Bunch of Psalms. Whatever. Get to the good part. Okay, Jesus shows up. And finally now God is incarnate. God has chosen a tiny, tiny dot on the world during a time of mass superstition, illiteracy, only one spot in the entire world, mind you, and God's like, this is where I'm going to show up. Yeah, sure. I'm going to tell these people that I exist after I get to the age of 33, because, I can't just start telling them when I'm a baby, even though I'm God. I can't tell them when I'm a kid. They're not going to believe a kid. I can't tell them when I'm a teenager. I got to wait until the magical age of 30 or 33. I forget which. Doesn't matter. And then he tells a few people he's God. Oh, and he does some magic. And they go, oh, yeah, you're God, I guess. Although they don't really know he's God because they're kind of dumb. And then he dies and comes back. He's like, surprise! And they're like, oh, my God, I guess you're God. Even though they don't really say he's God exactly, but they kind of do, but they kind of don't. And then he's like, well, guys, I got to go now. Bye. And he beams up back into heaven. And they're like, well, I guess we have to tell people about God now. Now, imagine you're living in Jerusalem, and you're just living a normal life. You're a Jew, probably. You already believe in God. But this guy's going around saying the end of the world is coming, and follow him, and he's supposedly doing magic tricks, but you've never seen one. And he's calling himself the Savior and the Christ, and you're like, yeah, right. And you just go about your life. You die, and there you are before God, and he's like, did you accept my son, Jesus? Who? That guy. You saw him. You didn't follow him? No, I didn't even know about it. Oh, you're doomed to hell! All part of my plan. Also, if you're in Asia at this time, and you've never heard about Jesus, right? Because it's in one tiny part of the world that you've never even heard of, and you die, and you believed in, I don't know, Buddha or whatever, whatever belief you had. Who cares? You didn't believe in Jesus? Who? You go to hell! And then this continues for a billion, however long it takes Christianity to slowly spread throughout the world. As human after human dies and goes to hell because they didn't know about Jesus, which wasn't their fault, but that's okay. Because this is God's perfect plan. It all makes perfect sense for God to reveal itself to a tiny, tiny part of the world for a limited amount of time. Perfect plan. Yeah. And wonder why we don't believe this nonsense. Lilith was totally there. She was the Naga in the Garden of Eden. And then she lost her legs and had to eat dust. Lilith is awesome. I love Lilith. I love the Lilith story. Anyways, well, nobody joined in. So, no, that was Lilith. It's not Satan. And Satan's an invention by the early church. Satan just means adversary. And yeah, that's also, again, if you read any of the history of the Bible or your religion, you would know. But you guys don't know because, again, it's easier, as you've proven. I think Angel did Angel ever answer the question? If they did, I must have missed it. Blaster, you were on that. I don't see Blaster. Did they ever answer that question? Yeah, you actually, Chaotic Sympathy, you need to examine the biblical historical stuff. That, I agree. You do need to do that. And you need to see how many frauds have come up to claim various different things about the place and time of Jesus and start to wonder why so many frauds exist. Well, they follow the parts of the Bible they want to follow, but I mean, whether Christians follow the Bible or not is irrelevant to if they have proof of any of it. So Christians, just like atheists or anybody else for that matter, they can be good people, they can be bad people. It doesn't matter. What matters is, what is the evidence? What is the test? What is the valid and sound argument that you have for your ideas? And if you don't have that, then what do you have? If you don't have empirical evidence, repeatable test, or valid and sound argument, then all you have is a belief. You have faith. And faith can be in anything. You can believe in the lobsterist, as I already put up the lobsterist at some point in this thing. Angel, why haven't you learned informal logic yet? We're still waiting on that answer. But I do have an answer to that question. So I gotta switch here. Let's see. Hold on. All right. Here's my answer to that question. All right. And because you're probably not going to click on it, because, I mean, why would you, right? I mean, I could just show it right here. So I'll do that, because it's my channel. I can do whatever I want. Let's see. I'll just skip to the relevant part. To that debate and discussion, in this to kill people, programs it into become sent killing, and that is wrong. Of the reader knows that. But the creator to kill tells it and see through observation if and when. What the bleep is it? Doesn't matters is that they were willing to do so. It's not idea true. Where the bleep is the thing? Simply we who agree to. Where the hell is it? Come on, man. There we are. Jeez, I couldn't find the clip.
Of course, I know it's wrong to kill.
All right, here we go. All right, hey, relevant part. Here we go. Thus, killing is wrong.
Well, of course I know it's wrong to kill, but who told you?
I told me.
There you go. Who told you it's wrong to kill? I told me. There you go. We don't need God to tell us that it's wrong to do stuff. We can tell us that it's wrong to do stuff. And in fact, God doesn't say anything ever, not even a little. I've invited God to the stream multiple times, or to my channel many times, and God has failed to come to this channel or say anything ever to anybody at any point in time. And that's interesting. Again, God showed up in a tiny, tiny part of the world for a limited amount of time and told people that it existed in a way that we would be confused about it later on. Yeah, great plan there, God. Yes, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, well, at least there's rules to how the thing works, although you can metagame those rules, Greg. Now, I still would like to play an actual game. I've only kind of attempted to play D&D, but I honestly want to play it and make a pokeball, because it is possible to make a pokeball using the rules in Dungeons and Dragons. And I think it would piss people off, and I think it would be hilarious to make a pokeball, throw it at a dragon, capture the dragon, and then summon the dragon and say, Charizard, go. I don't care what happens after that. That it doesn't matter. Or I want to play as a giant gelatinous cube and just eat everything, because that would be fun. At any rate, so Angel, hey Blaster, Blaster Master there, buddy. Did Angel ever answer the question, why haven't you learned informal logic? Because I didn't see that, if they did. I mean, chat's going kind of crazy, so I might have missed it. Yeah, right. The claims of Mormonism, and I brought up this. Yeah, Joseph Smith made the entire thing up, and it's so weird because there's a gal, and I'd have to find it, but she showed that it was false. Let's see, where is this thing? Where is this link? Somewhere. Those are things I need to read. I might not be able to find it. I can't remember her name. Well, at any rate, there was a gal during the time of Joseph Smith, and she got a hold of one of the things that he had written, and she burned it. And which she shouldn't have done. She should have put it in a safe or whatever, but she destroyed it, and then he had to go and write it again. And of course, I think she destroyed it. I could be wrong. But regardless, the new version that he made was nothing like the original version. So yeah, he made up a story and people believed him. It's not hard. And there's a movie. Oh, what's that movie? What's that movie? It's called. Oh man, I can't pronounce that name. Kamir. I'll put that on the screen here. This documentary. This guy pretends to be a guru, and it's really interesting, fascinating thing to watch. Goes into this kind of cognitive dissonance. He has a purpose that he doesn't even do when he should have done it, because he kind of doesn't want to give up on this life that he's built for himself. And I think that does happen to people that want to be a guru or want to be, the savior of humanity or whatever, that once you're in that lie, it's really hard to stop lying, So Blaster, did they ever I didn't see your thing. I'm sorry, Blaster, I know you're hearing me. Did they answer the question? Or anyone else can tell me if they answered the question. I don't know. I'm asking Blaster specifically, but whatever. But no, they didn't answer. Okay, that's what I thought. All right. Well, there you go, my friends, family, enemies, etc., whatever you might be. Tell you what, nobody joined in this time, but that's okay. Maybe next time. Here's my email at gmail.com. Okay, there's my email. Email me, and we'll set up a day and time to talk, and as long as I don't forget it somehow. Oh, that's so annoying that I can't believe I did that. It's just so annoying. But anyways, and we'll have a talk here on my channel, and you can tell me why you think God is whatever, and we can talk about all the things, including informal logic and why you haven't learned it. And lobsters exist. Yes, be a lobsterist. Read the Lobsterist. Why has nobody read the Lobster? Nobody has debunked the Lobsterist yet. And until they do, that means the Lobsterist is true. Right, Angel? Yeah, okay, sure. All right, until next time, everybody. We didn't get an answer to my question. And my question, by the way, is somewhat loaded, but nobody answered. And I don't think anybody will attempt to answer. And we didn't have any empirical evidence, repeatable test, or valid and sound argument. And until we do, we should be skeptical of the conclusions. Until next time, be skeptical. Whee!